Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Come on in. I see folks coming in here. I know Zoom lets everybody in the door one at a time. Come in, grab a seat. You can sit down near the front. Plenty of room in the lecture hall. But welcome to this week's edition of the Virtuous Insider. So excited to be able to do this with you guys on a weekly basis. We did get to hang out together and have a little chat today. Hopefully we can have some good conversation, a little bit back and forth. This is our product pulse session. This is when we get to take a look at some of the cool things we've done in the product and some of the things that we're going to do in the product. Now, before we jump in, as always, while everyone's kind of getting in and getting situated here, we are recording this, so you can access all the recordings of any of the insider sessions in the support center. And so we'll make this available there too. That way you can share it with friends and family, or make some popcorn and watch it on Saturday night, however you like to roll. Because we are recording, everybody is muted. We're all kind of used to Zoom by now, so we kind of get it. But like I said, we do want this to be interactive, right? We'll be happy to hang out in the chat and chat with you guys. But if you have a question, just to make sure we don't miss it as it goes through that chat, because that goes by fast, please go ahead and put it in the Q&A box. You'll see that on the little control panel there for Zoom. That way we can make sure that we don't miss it and we can address it when we get there a little bit later in the session. And I say we because it's not just me. I am joined today by Jason VanLue, the Director of Product here at Virtuous. Jason, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing, Scott?
I am, frankly, I'm spiffy. Jason, that's how I'm doing. I am spiffy. So for today, in terms of the rundown, like I said, we want to look at some of the things that are new to Virtuous. And so, of course, in our last release, we rolled out the ability to set up multi-select custom fields, which is something that, quite frankly, has been a long time coming. We've had requests for this, I think, probably more than any other feature almost. And it was something that seemed simple, I'm sure, but it was a complex feature. And I'm glad we were finally able to deliver it. And I know we've heard from some of you to let us know, hey, thanks so much for doing that. And I think it's a good way to see just, hey, we are listening. It might not happen right away, but we're listening to all the feedback that we get, and we want to make those things happen, I think, as badly as you guys want them to happen, right? It's just it's a matter of when we can do it. So we'll look at that, and then Jason's going to take his crystal ball, peer into the future a little bit in terms of what's happening in Virtuous, or what's going to happen in Virtuous, a couple of features that we wanted to share with you. We'll answer your questions, and then we'll wrap things up here for another week on the Insider. So with that said, I did want to take just a minute or two to take a look at some of those multi-select custom field features in here. So custom fields, you could always create list custom fields. That's been around for quite a while now. But if I go into data customization and I go into my custom fields and collections, now if I go in here to create a custom field, I'm going to have the option to create either a list. So you can create a list just like you could before that limits me to selecting a single value, or I can create a multi-select list. And then of course, I can do exactly what it says. I can select multiple values for any of those. And that's available for any of the objects where you can add a custom field, flat out. So if I wanted to create a contact custom field, and I said, let's call this mood, just for lack of a better term. And for my multi-select list, I said, hey, we're going to add on here as list values happy, sad, indifferent, whoops, angry, and whatever else, right? We could build a whole big mood board here together. But someone might be feeling a lot of those things at once. So, hey, let's make that a multi-select custom field. Excellent. Then when I'm on a contact record, obviously a contact's not going to have a mood, but we're doing this quickly. Stay with me here. But if I'm on a contact record and I'm editing that record, I've got a lot of fake custom fields in here, but now I've got this one in here for mood. You can see it populates that drop down, and I could say somebody's feeling kind of happy, but they're also feeling a little angry and a little sad, a little combination of things there. People are complicated. And then I can save that, and that's going to save all of those values for that new custom field. It's going to show them to me right there. Now, I can do that just like this. The nice thing about the multi-select custom fields, you can also add them to forms in Virtuous Marketing. So if you wanted to ask someone a survey question and let them select all that apply, Great, I can do that there, capture that feedback, and store all those values on a record. And I can query for any of these values in my multi-select custom fields so that I can use that data to power segmentation or to power follow-up or anything else that I want to do. And these multi-select custom fields, you'll see them here. You'll see them in the gift and contact import tool. You're going to see them available in Virtuous Marketing. Anywhere custom fields are sold, you can go ahead and get those multi-select list custom fields. Super handy. Again, really glad we were able to deliver that feature for everybody. All right, I just want to take a quick look at that. But Jason, I know you have a few things that you wanted to share from your crystal ball. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And I will let you go ahead and show off for a little bit, sir.
So I will share my screen in just a minute. I'll give a little kind of precursor to this. So we have two things to talk about today. The first being the responsive scorecard, and then we're going to get into some tributes functionality, which will be released very soon. I'm excited about the enhancements to that. But before we look at the responsive scorecard, it's sort of the motivation behind this. We sent out our Virtuous Insider email, goes out every month. And for the month of August, the theme was visibility and efficiency. And so we took a little bit of a deep dive into some of our signals products, some of our deeper insights, really kind of talking about how obviously data is important and data is also a bit of a yawn at times. But really data is as important to the extent that you can like take action on it. Right. And so at Virtuous, that is a fundamental value, is that we don't just want to give you data or the ability to manage your data. We want to give you the ability to take action on it so that you can connect and engage responsively with each of your donors. I don't know about you, Scott, but like, do you have one of those containers of like every single cord and computer accessory and whatever that you've acquired over the past 20 years, just like sitting somewhere, there's like giant box of just random computer stuff that you never ever use. And it's just kind of there. And you're like, but if I get rid of it, then I'll pull out that computer that I haven't opened in 6 years and that one cord that attaches to that, computer. I absolutely have to have it.
I do. I actually have a box that's in my garage that I've moved across 3 states now that has those cables in it. So I've not only stored it, I've paid to move it multiple times. But one day I'm going to need that thing and it's going to be there.
Well, and it's kind of like at times what data can feel like. It's like we want to hoard everything about everything, even if it like isn't, doesn't have any value. And so really at Virtuous, like obviously, I'm kind of joking, but having data is important. Having good, accurate data is important. But being able to take action on that data is even more important. And so as we look at something that we are going to be working on in the near future, and I will go ahead and share my screen. We're looking at something called the Responsive Scorecard. So here's what I want to do for everybody attending. The first thing I'll say is, just like I'll say basically on every product insider thing, this is not final. So this is not meant to be like an end all be all thing. It is just a mock-up. So with that kind of groundwork laid, I would love to hear from you. This is one of the features that I'm sort of desperate for your feedback. So during this session, if you can comment or add to the Q&A box, what would be helpful in this kind of functionality as I go through it, that will be really, really helpful. And we can even talk about some of that. So what is a responsive scorecard? Well, as we talk about data, we talk about taking action on your data, making it useful for you. One of the things that we hear often is a lot of our customers are like, hey, we are 100% bought into the responsive framework. We believe in it. But it's hard for us to know, like, how are we doing responsively? How effective are we being when we're trying to, reach our donors? And then like, how should I use Virtuous better or in different ways to be more responsive? And so that kind of feedback leads us to a feature kind of like this, which is not your report card that you would get in middle school. But it's much more of a way for us to surface a lot of the analytics and data that we already have. So better surfacing that for you, but then doing it in a way that hopefully will help you understand how to be more responsive, how to maybe do some things or adopt features in a certain way, to help you kind of fill out that whole responsive framework. So looking at this, and again, this is like feedback that would really be helpful to me. So as we think about the responsive framework, right? Listen, suggest, connect, and then repeat. What of those three areas, what in kind of the responsive framework do you find your organization either does really well in or maybe struggles in? Are there specific areas that you would like to see something like this surface for you? One other question would be, what kind of metrics would be helpful for you to see? Like, you can see some of these things now. We're talking about donor retention or average gift size or total giving. As you scroll down, we can talk about things like, web analytics, email metrics is another point on our roadmap. These are all placeholders, just kind of ideas that we're spitballing around. But what other metrics or data points would be helpful for you to see as you think about how your organization can operate more responsively? That would be super helpful to kind of get an idea of there. And Scott, if you see any, feel free to jump in and kind of throw a few out. But just to kind of close this loop, this will be kind of a specialized dashboard that we're going to be building inside of Virtuous. Like I said, in the near future, where you will be able to see a lot more of this kind of responsive data, combined with sort of in-app cues and things like that to help you maybe adopt new features or use features in specific ways. But ultimately just giving you much more of a rounded perspective on how you're doing responsively. So I think it's going to be pretty valuable. We're really excited about it. It's actually something that we have been wanting to do for a long time, and just haven't been able to get it into the dev cycle. So we're putting our foot down and saying we're going to get it into the dev cycle, but would absolutely love to hear from you on what would be helpful here.
Well, and we do have some folks who are jumping in and mentioning some of the things they want to see. And I know retention, we talk about, some core metrics like retention rate and LTV, lifetime value. Those are really core metrics that up until now, we haven't been able to surface really easily in Virtuous. And being able to do that, I think, is great. But the nice thing about this scorecard is you've got these sort of headline metrics near the top, right? Looking at the average gift size, looking at your retention data, looking at your LTV. But then also, as you drill further down, you're looking at some of the things that drive those metrics. Because measuring the number is important. It's not that it's not an important thing, but I want to measure those certain numbers, those benchmarks, and then I want to make sure, hey, to the responsive part of this, am I taking the actions? Am I taking the steps that I need to be taking to drive an increase in these numbers, or to maintain, if they're really good, to maintain those numbers? That's what we want to make easier to do, right? It's one thing to measure it. It's another thing to say, okay, well, what am I doing? What actions am I taking? And am I doing the right things? Am I taking the right steps and I just need to do more of it? Am I not doing the right things at all? And I need to figure out, I need to pivot and do something a little bit different than what I'm doing today.
Yeah, and kind of just going back to those three responsive components, right? So what area do you feel like you can do better in? Is it the connection piece? Is it just the listening piece? I mean, even just surfacing a lot of this data helps in that capacity, being able to just have more insight into how your donors are acting. And then from there, being able to suggest both ideas for doing things, but then actual suggestions within marketing automation or SMS or whatever the channel may be. I think this will be pretty cool for folks to start using. And then just like everything in Virtuous, we're building it flexible, right? Like we don't want it to be something that you have to shoehorn your organization into. We want it to mold around how you operate and what's going to be the most helpful. So I think it's pretty cool. Anything else, Scott, that you're seeing that we want to hit before we hop over to something completely different? Pivot over.
Well, yeah, and I saw some folks asking about moves management tracking as well, which I think is good. We've tried to do some, beef up some more features for major gifts specifically. I always think of moves management and major gifts going hand in hand. But I think to Jason's point, this isn't something we've chatted a lot about, this sort of feature and what we're building here. So for everybody who's on here, and we'll speak to the people watching the recording later, to all of you guys watching the recording in support. As you look at this, if there are some North Star metrics for your organization that you wish were easier to surface here, or just in terms of, hey, geez, this is data that we consider core that we can't report on, send that into us. You guys know you can use the chat in the application to let us know you have a suggestion for a feature. You can even say, hey, Jason and Scott, we're talking on the Insider about the responsive scorecard. I really think this should be a part of it. And outside of that, we've also got the roadmap in the application now, where you can even go in and comment. And I think this is a card on the roadmap, Jason, right? There is a card on the roadmap for this feature. So you can even go in there and add your thoughts, add your comments to let us know what would be most helpful.
Yeah, that's a great call out. And thanks to all of you. I'm just looking at kind of the attendee list. I've seen a lot of your feedback come through since we released the roadmap. So that's great. Keep it coming. It's actually kind of funny, but also really valuable. At our last big kind of betting table planning meeting, we were talking about how, like, these are things that, even in the last month, all of our customers have upvoted like crazy. So having that from you is super helpful. So, all right, well, let's go ahead, because of the sake of time, because we could spend a lot of time talking about just this. I do want to give a little bit of insider knowledge to our updated functionality for tributes. And so if you have, in honor of gifts, in memory of gifts in your organization, or plan to in the future, tributes is going to be something that you will be interested in, and kind of carrying our theme of data through. At Virtuous, data is super important, but actionable data is even more important. And so as we think about tributes, admittedly, our old functionality was pretty basic, just kind of an open text field. And if you've come from other platforms, shall we say, there's also some pretty basic functionality there in terms of getting that data into the platform. You can like manually adjust some things after the fact. So as we were looking at updates to our tributes functionality, it was really important for us not just to get the data into Virtuous, not just say that this gift was a tribute gift and have an open text field and have that information in there. But it was really important for us to think about what are the actions that the organization will want to take on that data moving forward. And so because that's such a big part of the Virtuous platform, the whole responsive concept, we really wanted to make sure that we were architecting this system as robustly and as flexibly, if that's even a word, as possible, right? And so I'm just going to show you a few screens, kind of talk through it a little bit. If you have questions, comments, feel free to leave those in. But what I'm showing here is a mock of our gift and contact import tool. And so one of the big things that we're doing off the bat is we are eliminating sort of the concept of an open text field for tributes. We're actually creating a brand new object in Virtuous for tributes. It will actually be an object, brand new object. And what that will allow us to do is it will allow us to make sure that the data that's coming in is clean. It will allow us to make sure that gifts coming in are matched to the appropriate object. So, if you think about Dwight Schrute over here, maybe you got his middle initial wrong, maybe you spelled his last name wrong, maybe you spelled his first name wrong, and there's 5 Dwight Schrutes in the system. We want to make sure that that's matched up properly, so that at the end of the year, when you're doing reporting, again, thinking about the actions you want to take, trying to mitigate as many of the potential issues as possible. The other piece is we're actually using our individual records as acknowledgees. And so this will allow you to basically open up all of the functionality inside of Virtuous when it comes to marketing automation, when it comes to segmentation, when it comes to all of the power of what Virtuous can do responsively. Again, thinking about actionable data, we don't just want the acknowledgee data coming in and then we can't really do much with it. We want the acknowledgee data coming in and then being able to give you the flexibility to say, okay, I want that segmented in this way, or I want tags added in this way, or I want to add them to an automation workflow this way, right? So all of those things are really foundational to thinking about how we're improving Tribute's functionality. So you can see that in your gift and contact import tool, a gift can come in, it can get matched to a particular contact. You can set in honor of or in memory of. You can attach it to an existing Tribute object or add a new one in line. You can find an acknowledgee inside of the system. You know what? I can't scroll over. That would be a problem. You can set who the acknowledgee is or add a new contact in this place, and you can see that it will show up over here on the right side, where you'll be familiar with all the kind of things that you can do to sort of manipulate a gift as it's being imported. And then you can even match it. And so we'll also give you some matching functionality so that as a gift comes in, we want to make sure, again, that it's getting connected with the right person. So in this case, if we have 3 Dwight Schrutes, we want to make sure that we're matching it to the correct one. And so, again, making sure that the data coming in is clean, is actionable enough so that you can connect responsibly. That's a huge priority for us. And then as you start to look at the list of tributes, we've added some pretty unique and valuable functionality. So obviously we'll just have a pretty standard list. You'll be able to see all of the gifts associated with that tribute. You'll be able to see who the acknowledgee is that's come through. You can actually set a default acknowledgee on the tribute object so that this individual is always going to be the one that gets acknowledged when a gift comes through. And then you can also link it to an individual, right? And so this is another kind of forward-thinking thought when it comes to how you might be utilizing this feature. We do need to create a tribute as an independent object, but in many cases, the tribute object is going to be one of the individuals that you already have in your database. And so we want to make sure that those can be linked together where appropriate. So again, you have actionable, valuable enough data as you're running reports at the end of the year, or as you're setting up, responsive workflows, whatever the case may be. And then finally, you'll be able to see gifts in a table that have the filter for tribute, and you'll be able to see tribute information and acknowledgee information there as well. So there's a lot more within tributes, but I want to make sure that we're aware of time limitations there. It will be rolling out soon. We're fully in flight in terms of design and engineering on this. And so this will be, I think, a pretty valuable enhancement to our existing tribute functionality, but ultimately thinking about utilizing in honor of, in memory of gifts responsively, not just getting that information into a platform, but getting it into Virtuous so that you can do things with it, so that you can better acknowledge folks, you can better reach out to folks, you can better report on that information so that it, just kind of connects those dots responsively. Scott, what I missed? What else do you want to add?
Well, I was going to say, one of the other things to highlight with this is, especially with the option to link this to an individual, that'll let us surface tribute gifts on a contact record too. So if there is someone who was a big supporter of the organization and they passed away and the family asked for donations in lieu of flowers or whatever the scenario is, if you go to the contact record, you could also see all the tribute giving there. And of course, you'll be able to report on this. Like Jason said, you'll be able to set up communication to those acknowledgees to let them know a donation was made in memory or in honor of their loved one. Right now, a lot of that is manual and a lot of that is trusting in someone's typing skills, which we realize is we don't want to make you have to do those things. And we had a question come in too, asking about if tribute gifts can be linked to a segment code. And absolutely, because tribute gifts are still fundamentally just gifts. So all of the same things apply in terms of having a segment code, in terms of having a project, in terms of having a pass-through, anything else that you're doing with your gifts. This is just another basically relationship from that gift to other data that exists in Virtuous. But fundamentally, the gift itself is not going to change. And Jason, if you don't mind, I'm going to take the screen share back because I know we're running short on time. And while I do that, we did have another question come in, which is an interesting one here just in the Q&A box.
Yeah.
And it was asking about setting up communications to some of those acknowledgees. Would it be possible to set up an automation that can trigger a letters on demand letter if someone wants to send a note with their tribute gift?
And the answer is a resounding yes. That is part of why we're engineering it in the way that we are. So that's a great question, Jonathan, and I appreciate you bringing it up because that's the kind of thinking that we want to help grow, inside of the Virtuous platform. Thinking about not just, again, okay, we have the gift information that where we can see that it is a tribute gift and that it is potentially linked to a certain person, but maybe it is, maybe it isn't because it's an open text field. That's all great. But then how do you be responsive about that? Right. So yeah, maybe you want to add it to a responsive workflow and have a letter on demand go out. Maybe you want to segment, those types of gifts in a specific way, or even depending on the size of the gift, segment it, in a certain way. Maybe you want to send an SMS message as an acknowledgement as opposed to a direct mail piece. There's any number of ways that you can kind of paddle down that river once you have data that comes in that's actually actionable on it. So that's a really good question.
Excellent. Well, and we just had someone else let us know that we did some excellent and exciting work here with multi-select custom fields, responsive scorecard attributes. That was from Jason. Thank you, Jason, and Jason VanLue and I will take all the credit. Thank you very much for complimenting both of us. It was just the two of us and certainly not our entire team of excellent people.
We also accept baked goods and and other things to the Virtuous headquarters.
Absolutely. Yeah, send them all to the Virtuous headquarters, and then maybe I'll send some to Jason. Well, hey, I do want to remind everybody, because I know, man, this goes by fast, but please do remember to join us every week here with the Virtuous Insider. We're always trying to bring you something new, something interesting. Hopefully, we're providing some stuff that's informative for you guys. And also, we really do want this to be a channel where we can hear back from you as well. So certainly come if you just want to hear, if you want to ask a question. But if you want to share something with us, especially in these sessions with Jason and I talking about the product, this is a great way to be able to do that. So please do join us. Next week, we'll be doing our client spotlight, so sharing a success story. So please join us. I don't know why I typed June 10th. I might be thinking it's summertime again, and that would be nice. And as always, I like to leave you guys with a quote from someone smarter than me. And this time I went for someone who had been Prime Minister of the UK. I figured, hey, he had a pretty good job. And I really thought that this was interesting because it kind of sums up the way that we operate in a way, right? We are constantly trying to look at what we can do to make the platform better. And like Jason said, it's really great. We get ideas from you guys. We get feedback from other folks in the industry. We have other things that we know we want to do that are cool ideas. And sometimes the challenge isn't, geez, what should we build? The challenge is, how can we build all the things we want to do? And which one should we do first? And so I really thought this kind of sums up the way that we operate. He who rejects change is the architect of decay. The only human institution which rejects progress is the cemetery. 100%. Jason, any final inspirational or otherwise last words from you here?
Never inspirational, but just to piggyback on that, please continue to comment on the roadmap. Please continue to submit feature ideas. Love seeing them. I do see them all and triage them appropriately. So even if you don't hear back or see something released right away, know that we do see them. We do greatly appreciate it. And we are working tirelessly, as Scott mentioned, to try and figure out what we can do first, what we can do next, all of those fun things. So thanks so much for doing that.
Yes. So thank you, Jason, for joining us, being generous to join us here on The Insider. Thank you to all of you who joined in today, and we'll talk to you again next week. Bye, everybody.